So in my Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol review that I just did, I mentioned in the beginning how, we're 4 movies in, the series should be getting really stale and tired by now, but instead we get one of the best movies in the series. Yeah, I really should have saved that bit for this video. Hey guys, this is Justin at The Survivor Review, and today we're talking about Mission Impossible Fallout. The 6th installment of the Mission Impossible series that just keeps getting better and better with each movie. And yeah, this continues that trend. Wow, this was an excellent movie. I loved it. Now granted, I do have problems with it, which I'll get to in a little bit. Before I get to that, I just gotta say, Jesus, this is one of the best action movies I've seen in a while, and one of the best put together action movies. The sequences in this film are just incredible and just downright amazing. It's some of the best I've seen. This movie is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who directed Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, the last film in the series. This is the first time in the franchise that a director came back to do another one, and when they first announced that he was coming back, I was a little disappointed. It wasn't a deal breaker or anything. He did a phenomenal job with Rogue Nation, but I kind of liked how each film in the series was done by a different director with their own distinct vision. So part of me was kind of like, oh, I wish they had picked somebody new to make it a bit more fresh and interesting. And yeah, I don't care about that at all at this point, because he did such a phenomenal job with this movie that I'm so happy he came back. He definitely knows what he's doing. He's an amazing action director. He knows how to just put together pulse-pounding action sequences that are just so well done. So, the plot of this movie, basically, it's a direct sequel to Rogue Nation, surprisingly. The only film in the series to really be a direct sequel, and it follows off that movie with the capture of Solomon Lane, the villain in the last film, has sparked the Syndicate to kind of break apart, but form this new group instead called the Apostles, and they're trying to get their hands on these 3 plutonium cores to make these 3 nuclear weapons out of them. And so Ethan and his team are on a mission to retrieve those and to buy them from the cellar before the Apostles can get to it. And the mission ends up going wrong, and the Apostles get their hands on those cores. So now Hunt has to retrieve those and get those back before they use those to detonate a really terrible nuclear bomb. And the CIA doesn't quite believe that Hunt can get the job done since he failed the last time, so they send one of their men, an agent named Walker, with him to help retrieve the plutonium. And that's the basic gist of the plot. I do want to get some of my negatives out of the way first. I do think the story is a weak point in this film. It's not nearly as strong as Rogue Nation, or even really Ghost Protocol. It's not as, tightly wound together. It didn't quite engage me at first, and it was a little kind of complicated. I was kind of okay, they were doing so much at once and introducing so much stuff at once, and they have to go meet the White Queen, they have to go do this. I was kind of wait, okay, and I just wasn't quite into it. It got better as it progressed. And also, there's a lot of moments in the movie, there's too many moments of, double crosses and reveals of, who's really working for who and stuff like that, to where it kind of gets, ridiculous at times. There's one major sequence in the middle where they just keep revealing stuff oh no, this person's actually doing that, oh, this person's actually working for him now. And it's oh, just relax, guys. Can we just have, one person who has a clear goal and we know what they're doing and they're not, secretly doing something else? I know it's a spy movie, but, that was getting a little ridiculous. So yeah, I kind of thought the plot was kind of a weak point. Not a major weak point, but just not as good as the previous 2 films. The story just didn't land as well as it could have. That was the major weak point. But aside from that, I didn't really have too many flaws with this movie. I love the cast, I love all of the characters, pretty much every, main character in this movie is a returning character from the previous films. Of course, you got the main team, you have Ving Rhames as Luther, you got Simon Pegg as Benji, you have Rebecca Ferguson reprising her role from Rogue Nation, you even have, the villain from the last movie back, Solomon Lane, who actually I liked a lot more in this movie. In Rogue Nation, he was kind of an interesting character, but wasn't that great and it wasn't that memorable. But in this movie, even though he's not, the main antagonist of the movie, in fact, he spends half the movie, with Ethan Hunt and just, chained up with him, I thought he was a lot more interesting of a character in this one. I liked him a lot more. You find out just how diabolical of a character he is and how screwed up he is, and I thought that was a lot more interesting in this one than the last one. And you even have Michelle Monaghan coming back as Ethan's wife from Mission Impossible 3, and I really like that. It's a small role, it's not that big, but I really like the way they used their character. And the way the movie ties back to 3, I thought was really good. There's good callbacks to some of the previous movies in this one, and I thought that was really cool the way some of that was handled. I really like that stuff. The real cast member that doesn't return in this one is Jeremy Renner as Brant, and of course he couldn't because he was busy filming Avengers. And you know, I kind of miss him. I wish he was there, but everybody else does such a good job that like you're not sitting there like, oh, you know, where's Brant during all of this? I think one of the best things about these recent movies is that they have continuity between each other, that they bring characters back, because you really feel all the characters' relationships in this movie. You know, you feel like they are a well-rounded team that really trust each other, that work off each other beautifully. And of course, the main new guy in the movie is Henry Cavill as Walker. And you know what? For the most part, I liked his character. I thought he was a cool character. I like Henry Cavill. I will admit, though, he's a little wooden in parts in this movie. There's a couple moments where his line readings are kind of like dull and stilted. And there's a couple shots in the movie where you have like Tom Cruise or somebody like spotting out like dialogue, like telling their plan and stuff. And I'll just cut to a reaction shot of him standing there, just like, and I'm just like, wait, what's the point of that? Like, what's his reaction? What's he thinking? I don't know. I got nothing out of that shot. You didn't even need to cut to him. You know, so he has a couple moments where he's kind of wooden, but for the most part, he's a lot of fun in the part. I thought his character was entertaining. I thought he was a lot of fun. You know, I like that. So the cast is really good. And even though I mentioned I had issues with the plot, there is some stuff story-wise that I really like in this movie. I like how they really humanize Ethan Hunt a lot more in this one. I mean, it doesn't turn him into like, oh my god, Ethan Hunt is one of the most complex and amazing characters in cinema. Not to that extent. They really kind of like delve into his psyche a little bit, and how he really is as a character, how like he really cares about his team and all that kind of stuff. And right from the start, right from the opening scene of the movie, where like, I don't want to say what it is, but it has to do with him and his relationship with his wife and how that kind of ended up. And from that moment, I'm like, oh wow, they're really taking a serious kind of take on this. It's a really serious turn on this thing that I didn't think they were going to go with. And I like that. I really like the stuff they did with Ethan's character in this movie to make him more interesting and make him more than just, you know, Tom Cruise action man. I really like that stuff. And of course, like I mentioned it in the beginning of the video, the action scenes. My god, there's so many great action sequences in this movie, and unlike the last two movies where it's just like, oh, there's one big Tom Cruise stunt in the film, there's multiple in this movie. And of course the ones that are heavily advertised, like the helicopter chase in this movie, which is the climax of the film, which is just amazing. The last half of this movie, like the climax, is incredible. Just the practical stunt work, the fact that was really Tom Cruise piloting that plane, the helicopter, you know, flying around those mountains, doing those crazy turns, it's just nuts. And seeing that movie in IMAX, which is, it's a must. It's a must to see this movie in IMAX, mostly for that ending scene, where just the scope is huge, and you just really see that it's him flying the plane. It's breathtaking, and so intense, because the climax has this like ticking time bomb element to it, you know, so there's that to it. It's like the ending of Back to the Future, where, you know, Doc has to connect the pole to the light, to the clock tower and all that kind of stuff before midnight, before lightning strikes, you know, it's like that, but times 10, and 10 times intense. You know, it's incredible. It's an amazing sequence. And then you have the halo jump sequence, which happens really early on in the movie, with Tom Cruise doing an actual halo jump out of a plane, getting like inches away from the camera, all done in like one long take. And that was incredible to watch. And there's some jaw-dropping stuff in there. But you know, the sequence that doesn't get as much talked about or isn't as highly advertised in the ads is the motorcycle chase in the middle of the movie where Ethan Hunt's trying to evade the police. And that sequence is so great. I love me a good motorcycle chase, like motorcycle/car chase. And you know, Rogue Nation has an amazing one. But this one is so great because it has this awesome element to it of Tom Cruise going against the traffic. Like he's going in the opposite direction. Cars coming towards him as he's going past them. And it's all practical. It's really Tom Cruise doing that because he's not wearing a helmet, so you can clearly see his face during it. And that chase was amazing. That was like the one I had the least expectations for because it wasn't as highly advertised as the rest. And that one just blew me away. Like, it was such a great sequence. I loved it. And this is probably one of the best action movies, just from a pure spectacle standpoint. It's incredible. It's amazing. Somehow they did it. Somehow they knocked it out of the park and made Mission Impossible 6 a great movie and one of my favorite movies of the year. But man, this is an amazing movie that if you're a fan of this franchise, you'll love it. If you like a good action movie, you'll love it. It's one of the most well put together spy films out there. And there's just some intense moments in the movie. From the action scenes with all the crazy close calls, like, you know, like Tom on the motorcycle and just a car like changing lanes right in front of him. He has to swerve away real fast. Or I think these things with him in the helicopter flying around, to just also like little action beats during some of the fight scenes, and even, to be honest, there were some moments where I was like, wait, like, are these characters gonna die? Like, I didn't have that sense of like safety where I'm like, oh, that's the main character, he's gonna make it. There were moments where it was intense, I was like, oh crap, I don't know if this guy's gonna make it out of this. And that doesn't normally happen with these big franchises. Normally when you have crazy things happening to main characters, you know, you always just be like, okay, well, they're going to be safe because they're the main character. But there's a lot of moments in this movie where I was like, holy crap. Like, are they going to be safe? And that, you know, that's really rare. And they pulled it off. I thought that stuff was great. And like I was saying earlier, I like how they handled all the stuff with his wife character, with the Michelle Monaghan character. I love that they brought her back. I love that they tied things together and really connected this series. Like, there's some nice subtle references to the first movie in there. And then, of course, it connects to the third one with bringing back Michelle Monaghan, and then it connects to Rogue Nation by basically being a direct sequel to that. So overall, this just continues the hot streak that this franchise has been on since Ghost Protocol. Gives us one of the best action movies in recent time, some of the best action sequences ever put to film, some just incredible moments. You know, it does suffer from a weak story, has story issues, but those issues aside, just delivers a great movie that builds upon the last 5 installments, but still gives us something new and fresh and exciting. Somehow the series keeps doing it. This is like an anomaly of a film franchise. This is a franchise that it defies all logic when it comes to film franchises. That it's amazing. It's just so crazy. So that's Mission Impossible Fallout. A movie that was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, my most anticipated movie of the summer, and exceeded my expectations. And it's gonna go down as one of my favorite movies of the year. It was just amazing and just wonderful. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.